We're going to call our meeting back to order. We are pleased to have Senator Haridopolos with us here this morning. We appreciate the fact that he was able to fit us in his very busy schedule right now. As you are aware, that he's right in the middle of session and he has so many different things going on, but he thought that it was, I guess he's very gracious with his time and agreed to come and at least spend some time with us this morning. And we certainly see him as the President of the Senate, a partner with us as we try to deliver a quality product for our families and our students in the state of Florida. And we certainly welcome him to provide any remarks that he may have this morning, and certainly extend to members of our board an opportunity to ask any questions that you may have. So what we'll do is, Senator Haridopolos will give you an opportunity to give any opening remarks you may have, and hope you have some time for questions.
Sure. Well, thank you very much. Good morning to everyone. It is great to be here. I understand the governor was here very early, and it's the new sign in Tallahassee. I think it's wonderful, and we have really gone into aggressive, I think, solid start in the legislative session in very difficult times. But before I kind of discuss what is going on in the legislative session, I first want to say thank you so much for your leadership and your ability and willingness to serve the state of Florida in these difficult times. I was just talking last night with my good friend Maury Husseini about the future of the state of Florida and the troubled times we face, but also the opportunities that present itself. And the fact that so many of you have stepped up in these difficult times and are providing a long-term direction. Because the one thing that we need to do right now more than ever is think long-term, not short-term. And making sure that my kids and someday my grandkids will be blessed with the exact same opportunities that every one of us in this room have been blessed with. You are well equipped to take on those challenges, and we want to be your partner in the Florida legislature. I understand that a lot of you all made the rounds, had the opportunity to see Miss Judy from USF yesterday and others, and talking about how we take on these challenges in a thoughtful way. And I think one of the ways we have to do it is by offering the individual universities the flexibility they need to make those tough decisions. Because just like we are asking for flexibility on important programs like Medicaid, I think each one of the different universities across our great state have unique abilities and unique challenges in their own region. And we want to give that flexibility and work together with Chancellor Brogan and others to make sure we make those thoughtful decisions. And I can guarantee you this, that you're going to have a partner in the Florida Senate. We, as an educator myself, now at the University of Florida, a former community college teacher, nothing is more important to me than a high-quality education. Absolutely nothing. It is the greatest civil right, the ultimate vehicle to opportunity. I think each one of us in this room are here today because a teacher engaged us in a special way that we are motivated to give back to our community in the long run. And so today I'd like to not speak much at all. I'd much rather listen to what is on your mind and what we can be working on over the roughly next 50 days to accomplish this together. I believe with the talent that's in this room, and more importantly the talent that's in our universities across the state, the students, the future of the state, will make sure that Florida's best days are still ahead of us. And I hope that you all feel comfortable coming in to see me, as many of you have, and more importantly over the next 50 days that we make these decisions together and we make it in a thoughtful way. Whatever might have happened in the past is the past. I'm a forward-looking person and forward-thinking person for that matter, and I really hope that you all can give us some good ideas today that we can work on over the next 50 days, and we can walk out of this session even in difficult times with better ideas and more importantly the flexibility that you need so that you can provide the highest quality education right here in the state of Florida, and that they not only want to go to a university here, but more importantly, they want to live and work right here in Florida. I think that is our shared goal. And so I want to say thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. But again, it's to stress to you, we are your partner. And we want to make sure that you feel absolutely comfortable coming to see us and give us your ideas, because, again, if we can work together on these things, I really feel confident that our university system will continue to find not only short-term success, but more importantly, long-term success in the future. So with that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to entertain any questions or be spoken to. Or more importantly, I'll use my ears more than my mouth this morning. I think that'd be a much more effective pattern. So with that, Chancellor, thanks again for the opportunity to be here. Always great to see you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Madam Chair, if you will allow me, I got a little experience here. Last year, of course, the state of Florida went through a significant statutory rewrite in the world of the state university system. I think it was bigger than most people really know and understand, and what it provided to the Board of Governors and to our local boards of trustees, our university presidents and institutions was much greater opportunity, but also much greater responsibility to organize our system, to streamline our system, and to make sure that the system was prepared to take a step into the rest of the 21st century, better prepared not only to turn out more people with great high-quality degrees, but also become an even better partner in the world of economic development opportunities. And I say all of that to say that the President, who wasn't then, but was a major player in that regard, we could not have accomplished that kind of a shift in responsibility and put it all out there in statute without the help of a lot of leadership in the Florida House and the Florida Senate. And the President was there at every turn. But he did make it clear at that time that he believes in our state university system, and that the confidence that he had as an individual and was shared by the other leaders by the end of the process was well placed. And I just want you to know how much, Mr. President, we not only appreciate it, but how hard everybody around this table and everybody around the system is working to make sure that you know that confidence was well placed. Our accountability system, the differential missions of each of the universities better coming into clarity, all of those sorts of activities are essential to make sure that this system is prepared for that next step. And we do very much appreciate the confidence that you placed in us, and we will not let you down.
Thank you very much. Any questions from members of the board? Governor Hosseini.
Mr. President, I asked, thank you for meeting me, by the way. I appreciate that. I didn't know the legislators, I thought it is kind of, 10 to 2 type of job. When we're away from Tallahassee, we have a different, perception of what happens here in Tallahassee. My question is, and our Vice Chair, Dean Carlson, is he is the one that really brought this whole thing to our board, and then we all, our board, and I'm not talking on behalf of our board, but one of our biggest things is quality to our universities, And we want to know, what is the view of the legislators? We are number 17 in top public universities in the country. We like to be one of the 10. If we go through all the efficiencies and savings and everything else, and we have been cutting budgets time after time after time. If we've done all of that, at the end of the day, if we believe in our university presidents and that say, if we really want to get to top 10, and first of all, my first question is, do you believe that, does that a job creator? Does that bring more businesses to our state? And if it is, would the legislators would they work with us? If we, for instance, we need to have more professors per students, we need to have, and if we have to spend more money in quality professors and other programs we have to do to become part of the top 10 university in the country, would legislators work with us in as far as the funding for something like that to get us to that level? Is that important to you guys?
Well, without doubt, it's very important. I think specifically, as you know, for just a few years ago, we gave each of the universities a lot more flexibility on tuition. We recognize that tuition differential is a very important issue, and giving that flexibility to each university is very important. And I think we recognize that the incredible let's just say contribution the legislature also makes each year, because tuition is only about 25% of the true cost. And as a person who grew up in New York, and the SUNY school system, of course, is much more expensive to attend a state university than just about any other state. And so we're trying to strike that balance, and that's why we've given that 15% flexibility, and we hope that that is a useful product. But as you know, right now, we are facing what was a $3.62 billion shortfall. It has now grown to over $3.8 billion. And there are 3 major areas of our budget where the money goes. It goes to education, health care, and pensions and and benefits. And so that we're going to have to find $3.8 billion, because one thing we're not going to do, as you know, we're not going to raise a tax this year because people just simply can't afford it. So with that in mind, we're trying to give as much flexibility to the universities as possible, as well as the community colleges. Of course, much different funding structures between the two. But to your specific question, I think without doubt it is the vehicle to opportunity. I mean, I think that the Bright Futures Scholarship, despite some criticisms, has been such a success, because when we used to have that what's called brain drain, some of our best students left the state never to return. Now they're heading off to where I teach, University of Florida, or an incredible school where I attend classes here at Florida State. And I think we're seeing the higher caliber student. I see it in my own classroom from when I started teaching back in 1993. So I think our focal point is there. I think the legislature's made tremendous impact and input into that system. But I would like to think that where we want to focus in these tough times are to ask ourselves some fundamental questions, very similar to the questions we're asking ourselves. What is essential and what is not? What programs should we be focusing on, and what are, let's just say, not such focal points? Meaning, if a university is going to ask for additional funding, I think they need to say what programs have maybe outlived their usefulness. And I think those are the tough questions we're asking ourselves in the K through 12 system, let alone health and human services. We're looking at essential programs first. And if you're going to ask for additional resources, candidly, you're probably going to have to say, what program am I choosing to either give up or allow another university to focus on that particular program. But I think the financial commitment has been there and will continue to be there. Our chairman of the appropriations, J.D. Alexander, is absolutely committed to higher education. I know he's very passionate about one particular area as well. And so I think everyone recognizes that. And I think, I'm sure the governor's message today was that he believes in a strong education system. But I think you'll see that, at least in our preliminary budgets, you saw that in higher ed, at least, we are very committed to the program, and we're hopeful our friends in the House will find a number that, let's just say, is acceptable. I don't think any time you cut education, to me, is something you want to do. But when you face the type of shortfalls we do today, we're trying to do it in a responsible manner, giving each of the university presidents the flexibility they need and they deserve, because they know their institutions best. But we're going to ask them to we'd like to ask, candidly, what sacrifices can you make in some programs that you'd like to have, but at this point you just can't afford, in order to focus on what their mission might be?
Governor Stavros.
Mr. President, thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
When my father came here from Greece and he went through Ellis Island, the clerk said, "What is your name?" He said, "Andoni Stavridakis." And the clerk said, "Andoni, that's Anthony. Your name is now Stavros." That's where it was changed. And he taught me industry, because he came here, he had a diner for 50 years. He worked 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. And he taught me the value of education. And all I can tell you is, as a businessman, I never realized that I would be a fundraiser for universities. But I did at University of South Florida and Florida State University, chaired the foundations, and we raised $600 million during my tenure. The business people really want to be involved because they recognize the economic development, the value of our students getting education from our great universities. One of the things that I talked about in raising funds was, we have a great state because we have matching funds. Reading that we don't, the shortage we have, the problem we have with our budget, I understand that. But if at any time, Mr. President, there's a way to get matching funds back to our university, can raise the money through the business community and through the community, it would be much appreciated by the universities. Thank you.
In fact, President Genschaft and I were just talking about that yesterday, and I think it's one of the important things we do, because we want that public-private partnership, and those matching funds provide for that. I think it's an essential program for the future. But as you know, I'm sure you're having a discussion about PICO funds right now. Even those, which are so prevalent just a few years ago, are literally zeroed out this year due to the recent ruling. But I think that type of partnership is essential. And for the longest time, and as I think most know, I teach history. And my father's story is similar to yours. He was actually born in Athens. So I understand the story well. But what we're looking to do is how do we form those partnerships long term. And that's why I think the Board of Governors is so important, because you all are the folks who understand not just what it's like to sign the back of the check, you understand what it's like to sign the front of the check. And you understand that it's a collaborative relationship, and we always want to make sure that our universities are producing the graduates they can immediately get into the business sector and can compete not just here in America but around the world, which is becoming increasingly difficult.
Governor Rood?
Mr. President, first of all, I'd like to say I'm glad I don't have your job this year. It's always easy to say yes, and it's much more difficult to say no, and I understand the tough place that you're in. I've got a couple of comments. I work, one of my jobs as a governor is to work with the universities and explore efficiencies, and I really have to commend everybody for working very hard to operate very efficiently. And now we're instead of just doing things with less money, we're looking at different ways to do things, and it's an ongoing process, but it's very important. And one of the things we all should be very proud of is when you look at university systems or universities and plot them in terms of excellence and also in terms of the cost for that degree. Florida is one of the leaders, and the governor was here this morning talking about comparing Texas and that analogy, but we are doing so much more with so much less than any other university. And we need to continue to do that. One of the things that has evolved lately, and I think since over the last couple of meetings, is we've really developed a great partnership with the various universities. And I think in our pursuit of excellence, and there's a lot of areas that we are giving them more say per se, and trusting them to do what's right in that pursuit. And I would like to just mention this to you as it relates to the legislature. And there's a lot of unintended requirements that go with the dollars that often cost a lot. And right now I know you're in a lot of things, a lot of big picture issues, but at some point it would be great to put together a group and to look at these requirements that have existed, and that takes up a lot of the university time, a lot of our time, a lot of dollars that could be spent on other areas in that pursuit of excellence, and see if we could peel back some of that. So that's one thing that I hope that we can work on over the next couple of months. And then the last thing I'd like you to comment on is this balance. And I know there's no general revenue dollars, there's no more tax dollars coming to support us, but we are a tremendous value, and there are people willing to pay more. We're capped at 15%, and there's some strings with that 15%, with that differential. We're capped at 15% per year. And there's been talk about raising that and allowing them to recoup some of the dollars quicker. I know there's been some pushback on it. Could you share your thoughts on that particular issue?
Sure. Well, first of all, I appreciate and applaud the efficiencies. I know the Chancellor does not have a large staff, and it is one, especially in comparison to other states, so he does a lot with just a few bit of staff. But I think the efficiencies are vital, and I think the reason why is exactly what we're struggling with right now. Our biggest pressure point is Medicaid, for example. It's $22 billion out of our budget. And for those who don't know, in about 3 years, you're going to see a 50% increase in the Medicaid rolls. So if you think we're facing pressures right now for funding universities, you can only imagine when we see our Medicaid rolls go from 3 million to roughly 4.5 million Floridians. And it is a very expensive program, and it's also been a cost shift, to put it simply. And so we very much applaud the work on efficiencies. And I think one of the things you might want to ask us is the same thing we've talked about with the local governments. One of the statements that I made in my opening remarks, we're not going to hand you an unfunded mandate to a local government, just like we don't like the unfunded mandates that are coming to us from Washington. And so I'd love to work over the summer to identify those areas where, again, we're asking those just that fundamental question, what you want versus what you can afford. And what's essential, what is your primary goal or mission? So if there is a mandate that we're placing on you that is not to your mission, and as long as you are willing in essence to take the heat for letting that program go by the wayside, we'd be happy to remove that mandate. Because again, I think the beauty of the education system we have, our university system we have here in Florida, is that each campus is unique. It's not just a one-size-fits-all situation. I mean, there are different institutions for different reasons, and I'd like to give you that flexibility. It'd be at least my ambition to do that, and I'm sure the governor would share that as well, because that's what makes us so unique as a state and as a people, is that we're not a one-size cookie-cutter type scenario. So we are putting mandates on you that are moving some of these vital dollars away from your mission. we need to identify those over the summer. And I know you've already moved in that direction if we can continue to move in that direction. As far as the flexibility, there's been some discussion about increasing tuition beyond the 15%. I can just tell you personally, I'm not sure where others are going to be in this, but I would not support that.
Governor Edwards?
Mr. President, I chair the Facilities Committee on the board, which is responsible for new construction as well as maintenance. And we are looking at a PICO funding of basically zero, at least for the next 2 years, and very realistically beyond that. I know that when we passed the lottery legislation a number of years ago, that money was dedicated to education. We were told the state couldn't do it. It had to be private, but the state has done it, and it's resulted in billions of dollars. As I look, trying to find some new source of revenue for education, I think it's time that we seriously look at a state-owned and operated system of controlled gambling. We're not going to get a tax dollar per se. And yet, in looking at the various projections, we have it now. It's scattered through dog tracks and everywhere else. And it just seems logical to me that if we're looking for a source, a dedicated source that could produce the type of funds that we need, that could be one of the main areas to look into. Could you comment on that?
Yes, sir. As you know, last year we went into the compact. It's a significant amount of money being brought into the state of Florida with the different tribes, and it was a tough decision to make. I mean, but we've recognized, whether we like it or not, we are a gambling state with all the different pari-mutuel facilities that you're speaking about. Currently, Senator Jones, who's the chairman of the Regulated Industries Committee, along with a new Senator, Oscar Brannon from Miami, have proposed some of these resort or casino destinations, and we're going through the committee process. Some estimates have it as high as $2 billion a year could be generated through these, and that's a debate that I think the people of Florida need to have. I believe on 4 different occasions casinos have been on the ballot, and 4 different times the citizens of Florida have said no. I think that would be a decision we still want to place in their hands if possible. But that's a debate we're going to have. We've been approached by many different gaming companies saying that if they opened up some of these destination resorts, as Senator Jones has spoken about, a substantial amount of money would be coming in. And I think it could be allocated towards education. But again, I know we're supposed to be focused on education here today, no doubt, but I want to make sure everyone recognizes the bigger problem that I see. It's this issue of Medicaid. It is, if you're worried about education, the biggest concern I have is on Medicaid because of the increase in the rolls, and that's why we're going to be asking for a waiver from Washington, D.C. to create a system that would work for Florida. As Ambassador Rood was talking about, we are given so many handcuffs are put on us on that spending program that we don't even know what the bill is going to be each year in, year out. And what was last year $21 billion, this year will be at least $22 billion. And so for whatever influence the good people around the table have in talking with our friends in Washington and the administration, if they'd be willing to grant us that waiver on Medicaid, it's our belief that we could free up $1 billion, $1.5 billion that is currently being spent and put it into other parts in the budget. But we will have the debate on casinos again this year. But I think the best thing that we can ask for is the same thing that you're asking for us, is flexibility on administering a program that clearly, in my opinion, in Medicaid at least, is broken. And it does not deliver high-quality health care, there's poor access to care, and it is very expensive. And that is not a good combination. And so under the leadership, I believe, of Speaker Cannon, who's done a great job in leading us in this debate on Medicaid, if we can gain the flexibility from the Obama administration, we really believe that we can put some of these dollars into our education system and make a real investment in the future, as opposed to into a system that is not currently serving patients well.
Governor Martin.
Mr. President, thanks for coming this morning. I chair the Strategic Planning Committee of the board, and one of the strategic initiatives we have for this year is to develop a strategic plan. And the board has been very proactive in developing accountability measures, developing work plans. And as we now begin to look at developing a strategic plan, looking 20, 30 years out, what does the university system need to look like for our new students coming into the system? Do you have any insight in terms of the things that you think that we should be considering as we develop this plan?
I wish I could see the future. It would be great. But I think just the recognition of technology. I mean, when I talk to, again, as I teach at the college level for all these years, the cost of textbooks, for example, are almost as much as tuition at times, it seems like, especially at the community college level. And I think some of the innovations, I think most of us have our laptops or iPads in front of us. In fact, you do, Frank. I think that is one innovation. And the classic brick and mortar situation has also changed. And we're shopping in different ways. It seems like the schools should do the same. I've always been intrigued by the idea of having year-round schools and that perspective, because we're still working off the old farm system, so to speak, having fall and spring classes. But I think the technology is going to drive this, because in essence, because the younger generation is so comfortable with technology, I think that in time you actually have to be physically there in the classroom. I know all the universities have experience with online classes and, of course, over television and so forth. Nothing beats the classroom. But can you have a reliable substitute given the realities we face with the budget today? And I think it's how we harness technology in the most effective manner is probably going to define the future of education. And the incredible thing is you can literally get a college education now on your laptop if done successfully. And I think we need to figure out how we can invest in that, because as I teach at the college level and based on my community college experiences, my father will be 80 years old this year. And his generation, whether it be with the retirement plans or the education system, has changed so radically in his lifetime. I can only imagine the changes that will take place in the next 40 years before I turn 80. And I think that we're going to have to figure out how we can harness the technology to reduce the costs and still provide a high-quality education. And I think that will be the defining aspect of how we change our education system, because we can't just continue to build more buildings, whether it be because of the funding realities or the fact that a lot of students in the future will be comfortable enough in taking these online classes and would enjoy having the highest caliber professors online and not having to be there in the classroom. And I think that's, to me, I think technology would drive us more than anything else.
Governor Duncan?
Senator Haridopolos, we actually just spent 2.5 hours yesterday on online and distance learning in a workshop as our board. I think we are totally in sync with your vision, and it is a significant part of the growth, whether it's happening, the shift has gone there. And I think what we're really looking also for, though, is ways to not us become a burden of more regulation and reporting to the institutions, but also, though, how do we balance the cohesiveness and the leverage of a system and acting like a system? So, we're working very hard to do that in an effective way. And I think the distance learning is one of those components. I think we also are really looking at the coordination of the programs. And I think the Chancellor can probably follow up and give you, there's been a lot of already cuts to programs. Our provosts and presidents are working very hard in a collaborative way to look at the data and look at where we have programs everywhere across the system, where we can maybe leverage. And it's not all about just cutting. It's also making sure maybe we haven't gone from having 10 of something to none of it, because we've all kind of cut things and trying to do that. So I wanted you to know we're working very hard to have a value add role there versus another layer kind of role.
Well, definitely, and again, you're blessed with Governor Brogan. I mean, he understands the process, being the person who negotiated so many deals with Governor Bush on his behalf and on many occasions. And given his experiences, I think we have a great partner, and I'm looking forward to working more closely with him. I think it'll be an effort where we can find success. And as you brought out, the last thing we do is eliminate complete programs, but does every university have to have the same programs? And I think we want to reduce the redundancies but still provide those educational opportunities. And I think these type of meetings are vital, and making some tough calls and saying which one of our university systems are going to really lead on computer, which on engineering, which on history for that matter. And so again, I think this kind of collaborative effort will be very successful. And again, we're blessed as a state. I think in my unique world, I think we have the most talented Senate we've ever had. I mean, we've got former speakers of the House, we have former House Appropriations Chair, we have incredible businessmen and women. It's really a talented field that understands the realities we face right now. And the same talent is in this room. I mean, I think if we're not focused just on our myopic view, that we're going to solve a lot of these problems, and it's going to take a lot of give and take. But I hope, again, in the individual discussions I've had with so many of the presidents in the room, you all are seeing the bigger picture and not just looking out for their own parochial view. So I applaud what you're doing. Again, you have the best quarterback in town doing it, so we're ready to catch the pass and make sure we work this out together.
Any other questions? I guess I have one. Yeah. I'm going to ask Governor Franklin to ask our last.
Thank you. From a student perspective, one of our huge issues this year is trying to add textbooks to a tax-free holiday. And I know the bill currently written doesn't have it added. And recently we've gotten a couple commitments on the House side to possibly add textbooks. The discussion is, of course, how much because of the revenues that it could decrease to the state. So what's your opinion on possibly adding textbooks to tax-free holiday?
I actually sponsored that bill a few years ago, so I'm very, again, just from my personal experiences in the classroom, it's been so frustrating for so many students that the textbooks are what really hold them back, and that's why I hold out so much hope with the technology. I'm a person that actually buys iBooks, and I'm very comfortable with that, and I have a Kindle and an iPad because, again, being on the run, you don't want to carry $10 with you, and so I think it's a real treasure. So I think that's one of the things we'd like to look at. But as I mentioned, in case people haven't heard, $3.8 billion is a heck of a number. And as the governor, I've had long discussions. The legislature's perspective is first and foremost, find those reductions before looking at tax relief. I think the Achilles heel of government has always been that they don't make the tough calls on the spending side. And I think as we're required by our Florida Constitution to balance the budget, that is where our focal point is. The House and Senate are getting very close as far as the allocations are concerned, and we are going to make those difficult cuts. And what we want to do in exchange, of course, is add flexibility to the individual universities. So if we make these tough calls, that you all have the flexibility, as Ambassador Root talked about, to put some of the dollars where you want to place them as opposed to what the mandates might want to place them.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. President, we want to thank you so much for being here with us this morning. I want to let you know that we are your partner and would hope that if there's anything that you would like for us to provide to assist you through the session this year, or any other information that you may need, or any questions you may have about what we're doing, please know we're here. And we're certainly at your disposal. So we, again, please know you're always welcome to come. We actually meet in person every other month. We have an opportunity to go around and visit all of our institutions throughout the state, and would love to have you come at any time that your schedule would permit.
It would be my honor, and we're just going to kidnap Frank for about 50 days, and he can work out of my office if he needs to. But we got plenty of room in there, as many of you all know. But it is, again, that collaborative relationship that will get us through this tough time. And I'm sure that, as Frank talked about earlier, Mr. Martin, that let's think long term, and let's see what the vision is, so that we can provide the highest quality educational possibilities here in the state of Florida. But again, I just want to say thank you for your service. It's every time a university president comes to my office, it's just exciting to hear what's going on in every campus. And as a person who actually works on the campus, at least in the fall term, the vibrancy on the campus is amazing. And to see that the future, so many people talk down, oh, what's going to happen in the future? If you spend about a day on a university campus here in the state of Florida, you're very confident that Florida's best days are still ahead of them. I mean, the talent that's in my classroom, I got to study hard before I walk into that classroom because they're ready to go. And it's really exciting to see them so interested in the future. And again, I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to be here, and we can't wait to work with you and make sure we solve these problems together. And we can look back, as one of my favorite books is called The Greatest Generation. Tom Brokaw wrote it. I want my kids to look at me and the group of people assembled around me and say, that was the greatest generation, that they met this challenge. And they not only met it head on, but they actually provided more opportunities. And I think you all are doing that every single day. So I'm grateful for your time. Hope you have a wonderful meeting today. And our office door is literally wide open because we don't have doors at our office. So have a great day, and thank you very much for allowing me to come by.